Hi there, it's Gerald M. Kilby again. And in just a few days' time from the date I'm recording this video, one of the most ambitious rovers ever built by NASA will hopefully land on Mars at a location known as Jezero Crater. This is due to happen sometime around the 18th of February, and the entire descent will be live streamed, albeit with 11-minute delay, I think. They've got about 5 cameras and even a microphone on it, so it should be very, very interesting. Now, the landing will utilize the utterly bonkers sky crane maneuver, first pioneered back for the Curiosity rover in 2012. Now, just after the main craft enters the Martian atmosphere, it will first deploy a parachute to slow itself down. And shortly after that, it'll jettison the underside heat shield. Then, when it's about a mile or so above the surface, this sky crane will drop out, power up its thrusters, and this will slow the craft down even more. At around about 70 feet above the surface, the rover will be lowered down on tethers and gently placed on the surface. Then the sky crane will detach and fly off to crash somewhere at a safe distance. Now, the entire operation from the time it enters the Martian atmosphere to landing should be around 7 minutes. Now, you might be wondering why NASA chooses to use this highly complex landing procedure. Well, the problem is basically weight. Curiosity and Perseverance are considerably bigger than earlier rovers. They used a combination of parachutes, thrusters, and airbags to land. And once safely on the ground, these airbags would deflate and the rover would roll out off a platform. But parachutes just won't work for something as heavy as Perseverance. When they'll slow it down a bit, but not enough. And also, to sort of bounce on the surface, they need an absolute massive airbag, meaning that the platform, once the airbag is deflated, the platform is still going to be much higher off the ground. And then you have this complicated maneuver rolling the rover off a platform, which is very tricky. And the other issue, of course, is that the thrusters would kick up a huge amount of dust, which could potentially damage the craft. So they developed this sky crane maneuver to solve a lot of these problems. And, you know, back when Curiosity was landing, this was very experimental, but they proved that it worked and worked very successfully. So fingers crossed it's going to work for the Perseverance rover on the 18th. Now, the site they've chosen to land on is none other than Jezero Crater, and obviously is particularly exciting for me since it's where I chose to set my Colony Mars series. In fact, book 4 is called Jezero City, and there's even a scene in it where our hero Mia is visiting the city's museum, science museum, where the Perseverance rover is actually an exhibit. So fingers crossed it actually makes the landing okay. There's also a map of the crater in the book, and you can see it here. And from what I can gather, I think the Perseverance rover should be landing somewhere around here. Now, when I was thinking about where to set the story before I started writing, I looked up all the proposed landing sites that NASA were considering for the Mars 2020 mission. And at the time, there's a short list of about 6 landing sites. And to be honest, I just picked Jezero because I happen to like the name. No other reason than that. But I suppose I reckoned that if a landing site was good enough for, NASA's exploration, then it's probably a suitable location to establish a colony. Now, the rover, of course, has a plethora of sensors and experiments. But the one that most interests me, and I probably assume a lot of people that are interested in landing humans and even colonization of Mars, and that's the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's shortened simply to MOXIE. Now, this particular experiment will actually produce oxygen from the Martian atmosphere, and it should give some very useful data for future human missions. However, there's a fascinating experiment tucked away on the underside of the rover, and that's the Mars helicopter. This is a tiny little drone, I suppose I would call it. And NASA are going to attempt basically the first flight on Mars. Now, this is very experimental, and I get the impression that even NASA are not sure if it's going to work. And in fact, all their documentation, emphasizes the fact that it's experimental. The reason why this is difficult, or maybe even impossible, is that the Mars atmosphere is only about 1% that of Earth. So there's not a lot of atmosphere there for the rotors to bite on and generate lift. That said, Mars is it's only a third of the mass of Earth, so the helicopter will be much lighter. But it's going to be an interesting one to watch out and see what's going to happen. Now, when this attempt is going to be made is not very clear as yet. My understanding is that around a month or so after the rover is up and running and they're happy that everything is working, they'll offload this little machine. It'll sort of drop out from the bottom of the rover. The rover will move away, and then it will perform a flight test. So it should be very, very interesting to see this. Now, to celebrate this historic landing, myself and a bunch of other sci-fi authors have got together and published a hard science fiction anthology of Mars-based short stories. And I've written a completely new short story for this, and it's something very different from my usual Colony Mars series, so do check it out. There's also other great short stories there from Simon Morden, Felix R. Savage, Douglas Phillips, Ralph Kern, and many others. Plus, there's a foreword by YouTube's What the Mats, Anton Petrov. So it's available now, just gone live, and I'll put links in the description below so you can check it out. Anyway, that's all for this video. I've got to get back to writing, and I shall catch you all next time. Take care.